I'm Courtney. We're a family of 5 trying to grow as much of our own food as we can, and we raise chickens. Our kids wanted to name our little backyard farm, so we did. It's called Heart Pine Farms. We're excited to tell you about growing the onions we think are absolutely amazing in things like homemade tomato sauce and pizza, and we can't wait to show you how we put these onions on delicious homemade wood-fired pizzas. It's October and we're getting ready to plant cover crops in the majority of our raised beds, with the exception of the ones that we're growing fall crops in. This raised bed right here is one of the raised beds that we grew Cipollini onions in this year. If you're thinking about your garden planning for next year and you're considering growing onions, we would highly recommend Cipollini onions because they're just so delicious. They're a sweet onion and they're really good caramelized. Our favorite way to eat them is on our homemade wood-fired pizzas, which we'll show you in a few minutes. But they're really good in our garden tomato sauce and so many other ways. So these are sweet onions, so we had our doubts about how long these were actually going to last. But they've been doing great hanging up in our garage in these mesh bags. We still have a good amount of these left. Of course, if there were any signs of rot, we were gonna take these and start chopping them and freezing them, but we've just left them as is because they're doing just fine. Sweet onions, they just tend to not last as long in storage as yellow onions do. One really good thing about growing onions from seed, that's how we grew these Cipollini onions. We started them indoors from seed in February and then we planted them outside in spring. One of the really good things is that there are so many different varieties that you can choose from when you're selecting onion seeds versus growing onion sets. So it's also, you can find more organic onion seeds this way too if you're interested in growing organic onions. So we would highly recommend checking out organic onion seeds and looking for Cipollini ones. So Cipollini onions are short day onions. Onions form bulbs depending on the hours of sunlight they receive. So we're down in the south, we have less growing hours during the day, sunlight hours, so we grow short day onions. If you live in the north, you would consider long day onions, and then if you live in between, there are intermediate varieties of onions that you can choose. So when you start your onion seeds indoors, you're giving them a nice head start because then they'll have time when you plant them out in the garden in the spring, they'll have time to start forming bulbs before the really hot weather arrives, and then you can harvest in the summertime. So some gardeners in the south, they'll actually plant onion seeds in the fall and then they'll start to grow and they'll overwinter the onions for a late spring harvest. We just prefer to have more control over this because we tend to have really cold weather and sometimes even snow where we are in Zone 7B. So we start our seeds in February. Here's a little bit about curing onions. Our July harvest was in one of the videos we made this summer, but you can see here how we hung the onions from rolling garment drying racks. We put them into our conditioned garage, meaning it's air conditioned because half of it is a home office. So it's a constant temperature of about 74 degrees. We also had box fans running to make sure there was good air circulation. If you're storing long day onions for up to a year, you're going to want to store them in an area that's cool, dark, and dry. The best temps range from about 35 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're in the north, maybe a basement might be a good spot if it's dry enough. We don't have that option here in the south, so our conditioned garage is all we have at the moment, and it seems to be working out pretty well. Our Cipollini onions are done curing. They've been hanging in our conditioned garage for about 4 weeks now, and we can tell they're done because the stems are totally dried out and they have this beautiful papery wrapper around them. So we're going to trim the stem and trim the roots if we need to. And we're going to store them in these mesh bags like we store our garlic, and we'll probably hang them out in this garage along with the garlic. Now that we bragged a lot about these Cipollini onions to you, we'll show you how we make our homemade wood-fired pizzas. Just a warning though, we are not professional pizza makers. We just enjoy making our own homemade pizzas at home, and we think they turn out pretty good with our garden toppings. Here's what we make for our homemade Cipollini onion pizzas. It's a homemade garlic white sauce that we make with our garden garlic. It's a really simple recipe that just takes a few minutes to make. To To prepare the Cipollini onions for the pizza topping, we just slice them and caramelize them in a cast iron skillet with some olive oil. This is our fresh garden basil that we use for the Margherita pizzas. We use a variety of garden toppings on our pizzas depending on what we're harvesting. Fresh, sweet, or hot peppers, different kinds of herbs, and even sliced new potatoes are some of them. We also use our garden tomato sauce that we made with our San Marzano tomatoes for our Margherita pizzas. I should also mention that when you're making pasta sauce from plain garden tomato sauce, sauteing some chopped Cipollini onions with garlic and then simmering with the tomato sauce and some Italian herbs makes the most amazing pasta sauce. We make our own homemade dough ahead of time. This is a whole wheat one. One of our kids is gluten intolerant, so we also make gluten-free dough. Making pizza dough would be a whole other video that maybe we'll make someday. The dough can be made ahead of time and frozen though, which saves time when you have a hungry family wanting pizza night and you have fresh garden toppings ready to be harvested. Getting takeout pizza less often has helped us save money, especially since we have dietary restrictions. Plus, it's fun to make pizza with homegrown toppings. Our pizza oven was an investment up front, but it saves money in the long run. We were outgrowing baking our pizzas in our regular oven since our family has grown. This right here is the gluten-free dough. It tears easily, so we just press it out and shape the pizza right on the peel. This is the pizza oven we use, and we've been really happy with it so far. You can choose from ovens that are just wood burning or ovens that have gas attachments. This one has both, so you can either fire pizzas like this with a wood-fired flavor, or if, say, the weather is bad, you can choose to use the oven on the porch with the gas option. Again, we could do a whole other video on wood-firing pizzas, but this is a basic glimpse of it. You can cook lots of things besides just pizzas in these ovens, like veggies or meat in a cast iron skillet. Making homemade wood-fired pizzas is one of the many ways we love using our homegrown food, especially our favorite Cipollini onions. We hope this video gave you some helpful information about choosing varieties of onions to grow at home and some pizza making inspiration. If we can do it, we know you can too.